every player that leaves Chelsea at the moment, like, often it's the club's buying, or at least the fan bases, they really don't want them. Like, of course, we've seen all kinds of stuff with Noni Madueke. There was a petition from Arsenal fans not to sign him. There was, coincidentally, a lot of graffiti of Arteta out the following day when the transfer was confirmed it was going to go through. Of course, Arsenal have a long history of buying Chelsea players, so there's a bit of trauma there from Arsenal fans. But Man United, of course, also they bought Mason Mount, who, although is probably recognised as a good player, the £60 million signing from Chelsea years later is yet to pay dividends. Chelsea are good at selling players for lots of money. They always have been. This isn't a new ownership thing. They've just done it for a while, and they've seemingly shown no issue of selling to rival clubs. Of course, Kovacic, Man City, loads to, Arsenal, the aforementioned Mount, to United, even to like Newcastle and other teams like that, right? So Nicholas Jackson has been linked to Manchester United, who looks like he's fallen to third choice striker in Chelsea's pecking order, because it's early days. Of course, it's easy to go over the top, but Joao Pedro looks like the guy. Not only that he could score goals, but that he can facilitate players around him better. Like he can make Cole Palmer better and stuff like that, which is a huge thing Chelsea are looking for. And Nicholas Jackson could be available because he's quite similar to Liam Delap, the new £30 million signing, who's a couple of years younger than Jackson, and of course has worked with Maresca before. And I think most notably, Maresca's may have had not enough, but he's a bit frustrated with the red cards, plural, in short succession from Nicholas Jackson. But he's a good player, Jackson, and we're going to talk about him to United and maybe like the fan outcry a little bit. So welcome back. How are you, mate? Good? I hope so. Daily content here on football.yannick. We are doing incredibly well, building a community together. 271 subscribers off 19,000 at time of recording. So if you do find you watch the content and you enjoy it, I'd be very grateful if you liked and subscribed. And if you do if you do subscribe, please do hit the bell, because it lets you know when I upload. Right. So let's talk about this then. Nicholas Jackson, he's 24 years old. He turned 24 years old on the 20th of June, so less than a month ago. 4 days less than a month. 26 days ago he turned 24. He is young. He's yet to enter his prime, Nicholas Jackson. Now, of course, it's hard to just wipe them away, but one of the negative optics around him at the moment are the recent red cards. But you'd think he would learn from that and not keep getting sent off as a forward. Let's just think that, okay? Nicholas Jackson has been massively praised by people in football unrelated to Chelsea. They did match of the day segments where you'd have Ian Wright, Alan Shearer, Gary Lineker, all elite strikers from their day, doing segments on how they think Jackson's really good, how they think he's going to get better. You had instances with Chelsea last campaign when he was unavailable, and you had Maresca saying to the media, yeah, you see how much worse we are without Jackson. Jackson makes the attack tick. It's easy. This is not a Chelsea channel, but I'm speaking as a Chelsea fan, and I'm speaking to many of you who will be Chelsea fans watching, which is fine, which is great, but I would eventually like to cast my net to as wider fan base as possible. We know that Jackson has been incredibly important. He did have an injury, but apart from that, he's generally always available, and he can run for 90 minutes. He does make, when he's not freaking out like he has been recently with red cards and then desperate to score and make up for it, when he's like settled in the team, he is incredibly selfless in terms of his work rate. He will make a lot of runs for other forwards going forwards. He will tirelessly run. He won't throw his hands up in the air. Like, if you ask a Chelsea fan, Say we sold Madueke to Arsenal, and say we sell a Nico Jackson to Man United, who has like the worst sort of like necessarily attitude problem. If you're not talking about the red cards of dumb tackles, if you're talking about demeanor, frustration, Madueke is the guy. Jackson has had his moments as well, lest we forget it was those two arguing over a penalty before Pochettino went, right, Palmer takes penalties, that's it. And it turned out it worked pretty well for Chelsea after that. But yeah, Jackson does keep running. He does keep working hard. He will just keep making the runs. He will pull out wide, and he has demonstrated immense technical ability. He's had long stints when he runs offside. He seemed to have healed that ailment for months and months and months. And then, yeah, if his head's not right, he can struggle with it. But let's just talk about Manchester United, who aren't going to get Gyökeres, who seemingly aren't going to sign Victor Osimhen, who aren't probably going to sign Ekitike, right? So you can talk about the striker market for them. They might have their own. If it looks like Voltemada is going to Bayern, the striker market isn't flush. So let's talk about Nicholas Jackson to Manchester United. Because there is a fan outcry. They're all freaking out like more Chelsea trash and being sold to their rivals. How do they do it? We don't want Nicholas Jackson. We don't want. I've seen Mark Goldbridge on the United stand being very consistent. And fine, everyone's entitled to their opinion. It's a game of opinions. But the facts remain, guys, that Nico Jackson has been an incredibly important player to Chelsea's attack, who got top 4. Chelsea got top 4 because of players like Nico Jackson. He scored double digits in the 2 full seasons he's had in Premier League goals. He's reached double digits. He had a stronger start than Didier Drogba to his Chelsea career. Like this season, yeah, he's got 10 goals and 5 assists in 2,200 minutes, right? So everyone thinks he's had some sort of terrible season. 2,200 divided by 15 is a goal involvement every 146 minutes. That is pretty good. And even if you just do divided by 10, so a goal, it's still a non-penalty goal every 220 minutes. Okay, so last season as well, if you look at his last campaign, remember, he doesn't take penalties. Bruno's taking penalties at Manchester United, so he's not going to take them there. But he doesn't take them at Chelsea either. Last season, he got 5 assists as well. So he's in 2 seasons, he's in double digits for assists as a striker. And he got 14 goals last season as well. If you add up his goals, Premier League goals, guys. Premier League, not other competitions. If you add up his goals, he probably scores a goal every other game-ish, which is a great return, especially for a young striker who you want to get better. You look at Erasmus Højlund. He got 3 league goals this season, nowhere near double digits like Jackson, and Jackson will feel disappointed for them. Now, it's worth mentioning as well. I'm just looking at some more of his stats briefly as well. He, in fact, let me just bring something out here. Okay, I just wanted to pull up Understat here for a comparison. The blue line here is Rasmus Højlund. The green is Nicholas Jackson. Goals per 90. He does underperform his goals, his expected goals a little bit, 0.59. If he can get it up to on par, like 0.6 goals per 90, which is the chances he creates for himself or puts himself in the position, that's an elite return. An elite return for a striker in the Premier League, especially one that can do assists and make key passes like 1.13 and help the build up and stuff, get his volume of shots up. The ceiling is high for Nicholas Jackson, and not just for scoring goals and assists, for helping the attack. I want to make this video because loads of Chelsea fans know about this. There is a story that Chelsea are going to ask for 100 million euros for Nicholas Jackson, which there's no way in hell they're going to get that. Of course they're not, because it's a stupid number for Nicholas Jackson. They spent £29 million on him. They're not going to get £80 million. But they might try and go for £60 million. So they might try and double their money, which isn't insane. Okay? I'm going to show you now some more stats here. This is on X value. Look at this is this season as well. So he got 10 non-penalty goals. He's got expected goals. He's in the 96th percentile, the top 4%. And of course, it's the same because he's not a penalty. The top 4% of all strikers in Europe. He's just turned 24 years old. Yeah? We look at the last campaign as well. Look at this. So this is last campaign. This is what you Man United fans need to look at, okay? Look at that polar chart. Strong. He's a good dribbler. He's amazing at receiving through balls. He's got really high non-penalty XG. This is the metric that Maresca talks about. Expected offensive value added. How he helps the attack, okay? So expected goals, non-penalties. Last season, he's in the top 3% of strikers in all Europe. This is what scouts and coaches look at. Like, bam, that's a high ceiling. The punter, the usual football fan will go, oh, he's offside again. Oh, he did an air shot. Oh, he's done something stupid. Fine. And that's what ferments in your mind. But you don't see everything in between. If he sorts out that stuff, he's really good. He's a really good striker. And he would make Manchester United a lot better. He would be a massive upgrade on Rasmus Højlund. That would be cheaper, by the way. They spent 85 million euros on Rasmus Højlund. So he would be cheaper than Højlund with 2 Premier League years experience. Plays better, more positionally versatile, can play out wide. And you have to remember as well, he's very good in transition. He'll be playing maybe with players like Mbermo should they sign him, but he'll be fed by the likes of Matheus Cunha. I've no doubt in my mind that Bruno Fernandes will be very, very happy to play with a striker like Nicholas Jackson, especially over someone like Rasmus Højlund. I know in terms of profiling, Xerxes is very, very different, and I actually quite like Joshua Xerxes, like as a sort of useful cog in the final third, and maybe he can be, he can interchange well. But in terms of a striker, Jackson's very good. Chelsea fans are frustrated with him because of the red cards. Chelsea fans are frustrated with him because he's getting these chances and missing them. But he's putting himself in a position to score these chances. I think it'd be a great, if it's not silly money, if it's 55 million pounds, I think that would be a great signing for Manchester United. Look, it might not go well or whatever, and we'll have to see if he sells. But the stats, it's all there, man. I think personally he would be a much better option than what they've got. I think he's got a high ceiling to get better. I think also Aston Villa would want him. Unai Emery would want him, which tells you all you need to know. Of course, Unai Emery is an excellent coach. He has worked with him before at Villarreal. Chelsea might try and sell him to Aston Villa so they can do something for Morgan Rogers. But we're talking about a great player here. I do hope this reaches some, Manchester United fans that aren't my mates that can watch it, because you could do a tactics board as well, and examples of Y-scale or something where you see his movement, how that facilitated goals for Palmer. Remember, him and Cole Palmer were linking up loads for goals. He fed Cole Palmer a lot of goals in all competitions the season before last. Again, Bruno Fernandes could be feeding Jackson. Jackson could be feeding Fernandes and other players as well. He could be feeding Matheus Cunha as well. I think it will be a good signing, especially in a time when beggars can't be choosers. We're through the looking glass now and Man United beggars. But if they're not going to buy that really high profile player, and a hugely important point here is, by their standards, he will be on affordable wages. Like, Osimhen, if they are on a tightrope with PSR, they could sign Jackson, amortise his transfer fee over 5 years, and they can afford his wages comfortably. They won't have to put him on what Mason Mount's on, and he'll be available a lot more than Mason Mount, let me tell you that much. And I think because of all those reasons, he would represent a good signing. Let me know what you think, guys. Comment down below. If you enjoy my content, let me know. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new. And I do hope to see you guys back here soon. Peace.